Hello there, this is Out Motorsports. My name is Jake and this is the 2021 Jaguar XF P300 R-Dynamic SE. Yes, that's a mouthful. This is not the first time we've seen the 2021 Jaguar XF on our channel. Tyler actually was invited to Jaguar headquarters in New Jersey to give it a spin when it first came out for the 2021 model year. This is not an all-new car, but Jaguar did make some tweaks for 2021 as they were taking a look at their whole model lineup. So let's talk about what this 2021 Jaguar XF P300 R-Dynamic is, and then we'll get it on the road and see how it is to drive in a different scenario than what Tyler did. Now, before we get too far into this, please take a second and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We really appreciate the support, and the more of it we have from people like you, the more fun we can have with cars like this Jag and everything else. So with that, on to the XF. So first of all, what is this Jaguar XF? Well, historically, we would have said was the middle of the Jaguar sedan lineup. You would have had the XE on the smaller side and the XJ, which was their big luxury sedan. For 2021, those are both gone, and the only sedan in the lineup is this XF. Jaguar is actually trying to have this XF fit both that XE and XF sort of sizing and pricing spectrum, mostly on the pricing front. So the biggest news for 2021 is that they dropped the base price of this car by $7,000. Part of the reason they were able to do it is with the engine offerings they've got. So they consolidated everything, they made some styling tweaks, just minor stuff, mostly on the outside and a little bit on the inside. They changed up the infotainment to their newest system, which is called Pivi Pro, which is a really nice upgrade. And that is shared between Jaguar and their sister company, Land Rover. And then they consolidated everything and said, here is the 2021 XF. This car, like I mentioned, is the XF P300 R-Dynamic, which is the topmost trim level of the XF lineup. There's only the R-Dynamic and the regular XF, which Jaguar calls the core car. So the regular core car XF is actually the P250, and that is a detuned version of the engine that's in the XF R-Dynamic, but it's only one engine. So whereas in the past, Jaguar offered a supercharged V6 with the R-Dynamic version of the XF, you can't get that anymore. So now it's just a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder in the XF R-Dynamic, which, as a reminder, is the top tier of this car. It makes 296 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, so right about at that 300 mark. If you get the core car, that's the XF not R-Dynamic, you get 246 horsepower, so you're down about 50 horsepower between the two trim levels. Every XF gets the same ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, which is excellent in a whole lot of things in the industry at this point. And then this chassis starts life as a rear-wheel drive chassis if you get that core car, that base model car, but all-wheel drive is optional, and every XF R-Dynamic has all-wheel drive. So this is 296 horsepower, 8-speed automatic, all-wheel drive in this case. Now this car in particular has the optional 19-inch wheels on it, which you can see here. It is British Racing Green. It has this kind of oyster cream-colored leather interior with the extended leather package on it. And then it's got the dynamic handling package, which gives you, in short, adaptive dampers on all 4 corners and a trunk lid spoiler. You also get red painted brake calipers, but the brakes themselves are not upsized or really changed in any way. It's just the red caliper paint. Now with just the 2-liter 4-cylinder, this is not going to be the world's fastest sedan. Regardless, this is still good for 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. They rate it at 5.8, and it weighs about 3,850 pounds. So your power to weight ratio, which matters more than straight up horsepower or torque in a lot of cases, is about 13 pounds for every horsepower. That's how much each horsepower of this car has to lug around, of course, before you sit down in it. 13 to 1 is relatively quick. It's not going to be super duper fast, but it is definitely not slow. So the final piece of all this, of course, is the pricing. Like I said, they cut $7,000 off the pricing of this car for 2021 because they had to make it fit into the pricing model for both the XE, that was the smaller version of this car, and of course the XF itself. So if you want that base core car XF, those start around $45,000. This XF R-Dynamic starts at $50,000. Now this one in particular is fairly highly equipped. Like I mentioned, it is of course the R-Dynamic. It has the extended leather. It's got the dynamic handling package. Jaguar loaded this one up fairly high. You can still do a few more things to it, but this one comes in around $63,000. So this is on the higher end of what you could get. If you want the P300 R-Dynamic, like I said, that starts right around $50,000. So with all that, let's get behind the wheel of this 2021 Jaguar XF P300 R-Dynamic and see how it is to drive. All right, so driving the 2021 Jaguar XF P300 R-Dynamic SE. This is the top trim of XF. And, you know, when I think of Jaguar, I think of things more like the XJ. I don't necessarily think of anything smaller than that, because to me, a Jaguar is always a car that is big and a little excessive almost everywhere. And obviously the XF is not a new car. This one's been around since 2015, 2016, and it's the second generation of the XF, which replaced the S-Type. So they've had a midsize sedan for, you know, several decades at this point. And I think this is more the right size for a lot of people. So I'm not here to hate on the car at all. And as far as handling and everything is concerned, Tyler drove one of these around some New Jersey back roads when Jaguar first did the updated 2021s, and he really liked generally the handling of the car and how it performed, you know, when pressed a little bit. But in my case, I wanted to explore this car from a more traditional scenario. Even if you are driving your XF on back roads, most of the time you're going to be driving it on roads like this. You're going to be driving to work, driving friends and family around. So how does it handle all of that? You know, one thing Tyler really loved was the suspension comfort, and I agree with him there. This is a very comfy car. Between your drive modes, you have Dynamic and Comfort and Eco. You'll probably drive it in Comfort most of the time and then click it to Dynamic if you're on, you know, a mountain road or something, or twisty back roads. But in both cases, the car's a little soft, but not so much that I'm irritated by it. It is just pleasant everywhere. So suspension-wise, you know, it soaks up bumps. It is well composed, good body control, but it is not going to be a harsh ride or anything that really irritates you or your passengers, even in that harder dynamic setting. And keep in mind, you only get the adaptive suspension if you get the dynamic handling package. So if you don't get that, you've just got fixed rate suspension. So, you know, maybe if you're trying to keep the price down, I may not even worry about the dynamic handling package, because it's really that upgraded suspension, the trunk lid spoiler, and the red painted calipers. So it's almost more of a looks thing, and then you've got the suspension that is nice to have, but like, do you really care necessarily? Or probably be okay with just the regular non-adaptive suspension setup. So beyond the suspension, for the sake of ride quality, the seats in here are really good, especially up front. When you get the R-Dynamic, the XF P300 R-Dynamic, you get 16-way power adjustable front seats, and Jaguar made the seats a little bit wider, and they covered more space with the heating and optional ventilation for 2021. I think the seats are great. They've got adjustable bolsters here on the sides. They don't have any adjustment down here for these bolsters for your thighs. There is a rollout bolster for your legs if you're a longer legged person like I am. So always love to see that. So overall comfort is generally pretty good. I did take this on about a 200-mile round trip yesterday with 4 people in the car to evaluate comfort and, you know, explore some back roads and do a bunch of traditional kitschy fall things. And it was comfortable for everyone the whole time. I was worried about size, I was worried about ride comfort and seat comfort, and everyone was very happy the whole time. So that was really nice. As far as navigating on that trip, Pivi Pro is such an upgrade over the prior in-control infotainment system that Jaguar and Land Rover has had. I've used Pivi Pro on the Land Rover Defender. It is just as good here, slightly different screen size and shape, but generally very good. It is paired to a Meridian surround sound system. That is a $600 or so optional upgrade. If you're a sound person, get it. It's really good. One of the better systems I've heard. All of the luxury brands seem to be doing a really nice job lately with their sound systems. So as far as road tripping and everything, this car is excellent. It's comfortable, it's quiet, and it's got this presence. And I have always admired the XF styling, both the first generation and this current generation of XF. I think they're phenomenally good looking cars. And the interior is very nice. I love the two-tone, the extended leather, you know, the open pore wood everywhere, and in this case, the kind of light cream color. They offer some really good interior colors too. The one thing with the whole presence of a Jaguar that falls apart for me is with the drivetrain of this car. I mentioned they only have the 2-liter turbo 4 now for 2021. In years past, they had a supercharged V6. and they took it away for 2021. And the sad reality of this is that sedans aren't really selling in the volume that they used to. Everyone wants a crossover, and for some good reasons, for some reasons I don't totally understand, but everyone wants crossovers. And Jaguar is one of those slightly smaller brands, and they have to really consolidate and make sure they're putting their best foot forward with the resources they have into what will sell the most. So that means, unfortunately, crossovers first, and it means they're going to be moving towards electric cars, which, fine. I honestly think EV probably suits the Jaguar mantra and vibe more than this 2-liter turbo 4 does. So Jaguar has committed to going full EV in the next handful of years. Unfortunately, the upcoming XJ that was supposed to be their full-size luxury sedan that was already slated to be a full electric car somehow got canceled. They're probably going to go more crossovers than anything, but regardless, they're committed to going full EV. So this is kind of the last gasp of kind of a dying segment to me. This is, you know, the midsize luxury sedan segment it's alive and well to a point, but you're not going to have the wacky drivetrains that made some of these so special out of these smaller automakers that don't sell as much in the States. The people who sell a lot more in the United States can afford to certify multiple engines, and, you know, deal with lower corporate fuel economy standards and all that sort of stuff because they have more volume that balances it all out. Jaguar's not really in that position, so they just have this 2-liter turbo 4 that they put in here, left in here, and you've got 2 states of tune based on which version of the XF you get. So I really wish this car had the supercharged V6, not because of the power, but because of the noise. The NVH is what the industry term is: noise, vibration, and harshness. And the 2-liter turbo 4 in this car just doesn't do it for me. It doesn't sound great, and it doesn't sound great when you push it, and you can catch it at lower RPMs where it just ends up kind of lugging a little bit, and it gets a little buzzy and a little bit of vibration in the cabin, and it's just not what I want out of a Jaguar. And I mean, I'll put my foot down. It's just entirely fine. And, you know, a 2-liter turbo 4 is great in a lot of cases, but it doesn't fit the character of this car to me. And for how much presence this car has, I mean, driving this, you feel like $1 million. It's a beautiful interior, beautiful infotainment. You're staring at a really nicely done steering wheel with this, you know, the leaper on the steering wheel airbag cover, and you know what the car looks like from the outside. I got a promotion at my day job last week when I had this car, and driving home from an event, having heard that news, truly, I felt like $1 million in this car. It does have that presence to it, but the engine can't back up what the rest of the car is trying to do. And that's my only take. And truly, I think if this was a full EV, I would really have fewer complaints about the drivetrain. Transmission is fine, but the engine, you know, I don't want those kind of noises out of this kind of a car. I really, really want a 6-cylinder, but for reasons I mentioned before, it probably can't happen in a car like this. So if you're okay with the sounds that this engine makes, it makes enough power and torque. It's not going to shove you in your seat fast, but it's plenty. I'm not worried about the power and torque here. It's more so just kind of the overall aesthetic that you get from the engine plus the rest of the car. Overall, I see why Tyler likes this car. I do really like this car. It's worth mentioning. I know I'm kind of ragging on it in certain cases, but it is very good. It still has the presence. I wish the drivetrain was different, but I understand why it can't be. You know, overall, if this is what you're looking for segment-wise, you're going to cross-shop this with what? Genesis G80, BMW 5 Series, Audi A6, Mercedes-Benz E-Class. This is going to be a more interesting option compared to some of those. It's going to be a lower volume option and thus a little more standout option than some of those. Is it better than some of those? That's kind of up to you to figure out where your priorities are with a car like this. If you really love the styling and being a little bit different, I think this is a really great option. If you want the best drivetrain in the segment, I don't think this is the one. But there's definitely a lot to like here, so it is worth checking out if it is on your short list of new cars that you're considering in a segment like this. All right, that is it for this review of the 2021 Jaguar XF P300 R-Dynamic SE. Thank you so much for coming along today. As always, please be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing that we have coming up next. We really appreciate your support there. You can also give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram at Out Motorsports. And if you're looking to connect with a community of LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors, please head over to outmotorsports.com. We would love to meet you over there. In the meantime, please stay safe, be well, and we'll see you again soon.